Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, The Church of Failure, and with me, possibly already again, is Ayrton McCartney, my trusty co-host. He may still be getting a beer, who knows. So, outside of that, we have two very special guests tonight who will be talking about the Deadmans Tome Deadocalpyse IndieGoGo campaign.
Special guest. What?
Shush. Let me do my intro thing, and then you can start ruining my show. Mr. Deadman, Jesse from the Deadmans Tome podcast, and Damascus. What's your full handle? Terrible with this.
My handle on Twitter is Damascus Undead, but my real name is Damascus Mincemeyer.
Damascus Mincemeyer, Damascus yes. Undead on Twitter. The artist and author, am I to understand?
Yeah.
The artist and author for Deadocalpyse on IndieGoGo. Let me go ahead and get that pulled up here. So, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor if you want to start talking about that.
Oh, wow. Actually, I think Jesse should probably start.
Oh, that's a
good idea.
That's probably a bad idea, but yeah, that's probably a bad idea. But we're going to go with it since you're our guest.
All right. Okay. So, I don't know, with all these things about comics going on, I was like, man, I'd be ready to get into comics somehow, but I have no artistic ability. But one thing I could do is definitely look at that, how to put one together, who I need to talk to, and the cost and all that. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get into that as the publishing end, because it seems like there's already a problem right now with the current gatekeepers being a bunch of assholes. So what if I go in there, not with the intention of being another gatekeeper, not at all. I don't want to do that. If anything, of course, I keep in mind, this is a very new experience for me. So I'm, it comes with that, right? But through this experience, I'm going to learn a lot. Right. But and what I gain from it, if it works out well, which I hope it does, I want to continue doing more, bring other artists on as well. And I mean, it's
why not?
Hopeful on it. Yeah. In this comic here, Deadocalpyse, it's a nice twist on zombies, a zombie genre. I think it makes it fun again. I'm going to put it that way. They say zombies are
fun again.
It brings it back to life.
Yeah, bring it back to life.
Like the what is it, Evanescence song? Is that what we're going for here?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I went there. What of it?
You went there.
There's also Pink Floyd.
Is Amy Lee still around, or is she hitting the meth? I don't know what's going on with her.
Man, you know I don't know the answer to that.
I heard she got fat. That'd be sad if she did. Anyway.
Go ahead.
So the thing about zombies, right? They say zombies are tired and boring and done with, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe you mean that with The Walking Dead. And yeah, whenever I see zombies, it's like, okay, is this going to be good or not? For me, a good zombie story is something that doesn't dwell in any of the drama. Like the emo crap, I don't have time for that. I don't want to watch that. When I watch a zombie film, I want to watch just
get the brains
make it
going
simple.
Splattered,
Yeah.
Right.
Them shooting zombies, man. I want a bunch of brains, blood, and guts going everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I can see that.
And cans. Don't forget the cans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, in cans, in lots of cans. Zombie boobs run around. I mean,
I disavow.
there's boobs and zombie boobs. Hey, I don't discriminate when it comes to that.
So we've got
disclosing too much here.
So we've got a zombie-themed, like a spin on the zombie apocalypse. I see the cover here of the video, and we'll take a look at the video just a little bit. But the cover here is Bikers versus the Undead. So is that the official name of the book, or just the theme of the book?
That was a reference to a book that Deadman's Tome put out.
Okay.
That was the first cover I did for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
First cover. First time working with Damascus, and this is the first thing he gives me, which is great. I mean, look at this. I'm like, oh man, holy hell, we're working with some serious talent.
Yeah. Well, I've got some images to bring up as well. There is some fantastic art in this book. Now, right now, it looks like you've got two backing options. You got a $5 option and a $10 option. Do you have any plans for like stretch goals or anything like that?
Not at time, I suppose. If that happens, sure. I mean, we could always put more stuff into it. I guess if people start, I guess, donating, the money comes in. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really talked to Damascus about it, but I guess maybe do more with it. Add more art.
We could always add more stuff to it and find other. I like the idea you had to find other artists to come up with stories and have other artists draw them.
Well,
yeah.
And one thing, how long is this book going to be? Just off the top right now, what's this original plan? Do you have an idea on that?
Right now, it's what? It's kind of short right now. It's like what?
It's like 12 or something, isn't it?
12 pages? Yeah.
Something like
that. Okay.
12 pages right now. There'll be some more. Well, of course, Deadman someone's going to put some stuff like images. I'll probably put some some of the covers we had before, and maybe talk with Damascus, put some, concept art in there as well.
Oh yeah. And pack some cool shit in there.
All right.
Originally,
nice and beefy.
Yeah. Plus, I'll draw something cool for the cover too. Of course, I'll come up with something.
Okay.
What were we gonna name? What were we gonna name the comic anyway? Was it Deadman's Tome? Deadman's Tome Comics or what? I think we.
But the comic line. Oh, the comic line. I don't know. I guess just put the seal on there. I got to put the little Deadman's Tome seal on there on everything. It can be kind of hidden. That's okay, as long as people know what it is.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I've been doing now with the Deadman's Tome books. Like, I used to just put the brand on everything, so big and bold, which most people do, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't have to be so vain. It's not really about me anymore. The Bikers versus the Undead, Psycho Holiday, Mr. Deadman made me do it.
I remember I put the Deadman's Tome logo in that and blood in the background. I remember that.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
Wall.
But I mean, they still have the implements just on the back or something kind of discreet. So
the only actual book publishers I know are Gwen and you, so you don't have that going for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced publishing books. The comic, like I said, I know it kind of reveals me being pretty amateur about this. I'm not going to lie about that. It is what it is, right? Got to learn as I go. But I'm going to go on head on. I had a guest recently he's also an author. He also does comics. So talk to the people that do his printing, and it seems like it's going to work just fine. I have no concerns or worries about it. So yeah, I was like, okay. So
I have some pro experience though, because I remember I've had comics published in heavy metal and stuff. So
okay.
I've got get your back there in some respect.
Oh well, tell us about that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been planning on.
That was in my.
Go ahead.
Existence. So always ever since I was 13, I loved comics since I was 13. Like the writing came first, but when I was about 13, I fell in love with X-Men and Jim Lee's art was like the number one. That was like my number one influence. He's like my number. Like there's no, as I've said before, if there was no Jim Lee, there'd be no Damascus because I just fell in love with that. I'd had comics before that, but I'd never seen anything like that before. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. And my goal was never really to like everybody wants to like grow up and draw Spider-Man or Daredevil or Batman or something. I always wanted to like have my own comic and tell my own stories. And I remember I was really attracted to I was really attracted to like Image Comics like a long time ago because
I was gonna say back in the 90-91 era when Spawn was published, we talked about this a little bit last night, but Spawn #1 and the first couple of issues of Spawn in the letters section, it was almost like a forward to Image Comics from Todd McFarlane. And he explained that he wanted to go to Image and help that company and start working there. And there was even an homage that we talked about last night, Spawn #7, or not #7, whatever the issue that Dave Sim wrote.
10. It was number 10.
Okay, yeah, where they went to the 7th level of Erebus.
Yeah.
And I've been rereading Spawn and trying to cram as much of it in my head as I could, and before issue 300 came out, and it's hard to chew through those first few issues. They're a little bit meaty.
Yeah, I love Spawn though. By the way.
Oh yeah, Spawn's fantastic.
One of my all-time favorites.
Spawn is.
That's actually.
Go ahead.
Oh, one of the for my coloring actually, I loved Steve Olif's coloring in those early issues of Spawn. That was one of my. I just love the way that looks. I always try to capture that look whenever I color something digitally because I love that so much.
Right. We have an example of the coloring. Did you do this coloring here?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you're doing everything. You're doing the.
I'm like I'm a one-man band. I do it all.
One-man band. See, this guy's great, isn't he?
Show off here.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, that's
why it takes me forever to do a comic because I do everything.
Right.
Normally, people are always like saying, "Why don't you put out more stuff?" It's like, well, because I'm not 10 people.
Yeah, exactly. Like it makes sense. And you know, with this kind of talent, I mean, I can understand the weight. Like I said, it's amazing artwork as far as the coloring and just the contrast with the line work goes, the inking. I can imagine. Were there pencils?
Oh yes, yeah. It's a full thing. Yeah, it's a full course skill.
Okay, I didn't know if you were a direct-to-digital artist or if you did like sketch art and then you went in and inked it.
Yeah, I do pencils, inks. Well, first, of course, you got to write it. You got to do the layouts for it.
Right.
Then you have to do the pencils. You do the inks. You scan it. Then you put the word balloons on, and then you color it. That's like the final stage.
Right.
So yeah, it's a multi-step process. I've had to learn how to do all of it over the years, just because basically I didn't know anybody else that could do it. That was the main thing. I wanted to do it, and nobody else knew how, so I had to teach myself everything.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean,
good on you for doing that. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Right, and I agree entirely. Like I said, we've got an example of the coloring up now. Got a few more stills like that one, just even in just black and white, just all the little finite detail, all the hatch work. I mean, just the amount, the amount of time and effort you put into this, and it's getting slept on, and it breaks my heart. So I definitely wanted to try and get you guys on and raise awareness about this, because this is something that people might really be interested in. And if you could, if you guys can get the funding and the time, expand this to make it like a longer story or something like that, I think it would be something that a lot of people would be really happy to have, especially considering The Walking Dead just ended.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is a little bit of an 18+ comic, so we'll get to
that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that here.
There's some titties.
The very way to be blunt. I was going to dance around it for a few more minutes. Thanks for saving me that trouble. But there's some language, obviously.
Just gonna go right into it.
Yeah, there's some language, obviously.
Yeah.
Swan dive right in. Don't warm up or lube up at all.
Nope, just go right in.
Man, how do you have two kids?
Yeah.
Or however many you have.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're going. Is it me or is he going robotic?
No, you just have to agree with everything he just said.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Yeah.
When you start going robotic, you should just start singing Mr. Roboto, or is that too cliche? So, I do have the IndieGoGo video while Ayrton sorts his audio out.
Okay.
We could watch that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm game for
All
that.
right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that.
But yeah, I'm game for that.
I'll go ahead and get that up on stream. If you guys want me to stop it, just let me know, and we can stop and make a point or whatever.
I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet. So.
Okay.
I look at the douchebag wearing sunglasses inside. All right.
That's right. What a hunk. Yeah.
All right. How's it going? Mr. Deadman here, the Deadmans Tome podcast, and I have a question for you. Would you like a Deadmans Tome comic? Well, then we need your help to make that possible. What you have here on the screen is one of our mini covers by the talented Damascus Mincemeyer. Mr. Deadman made me do it. This guy has shown off his talent in many ways, not just with this cover, but also with our mascot here, Evening Star. That we named her. Not only that, but he's also done the cover for Bikers versus the Undead. The reason why I bring that up is because this comic that we're working on is going to put a new spin on the zombie genre. I understand the zombie genre is very tired, right? Very tired. But like Bikers versus the Undead, we're putting new life into it. Okay. But we are putting new life to it. We're going to make the zombie genre great again. We're going to make it fun again. Just like we did with Bikers versus the Undead. So if you want to help make this possible, all you have to do is back the project. You'll get a copy, a digital copy and a paperback copy of the comic, okay? Oh, you want to take a look at what it looks like inside? What we have so far is, I mean, I could show you some stuff. I don't mind. Okay. I mean, here's a little clip. All right. Nice illustration, nice shading, black and white. Also, color. Okay. Yeah, it's going to look very sick. Deadman's Tome has been publishing horror and dark fiction books for a while now. Comic is a new field. I will say that. But I've been speaking with some people on how to make sure that it's good, how to do it the right way. And with Damascus on our side, I don't see how this could go wrong at all. In fact, I am excited about this project. So, let's be part of it. I'll take it easy.
Listen up. The soap you
So that was the IndieGoGo video. So you did show some of the art we've had up on this show, and because this is a zombie comic, first off, I want to encourage anybody that's watching this now or watching it in the future to go back to the Deadman's Tome, Deadocalpyse. It's $5 for a digital copy or $10 for a physical and digital copy. Campaign will only receive funds if it makes at least $5,000 US. So we've got 57 days to raise $4,975. $95.
Yep. Gotta get going.
85.
Gotta
whatever.
get going. Gotta get hustling.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you guys have? I'm sure you guys have a plan and are gonna be pushing this. I'm gonna be promoting it as well. Putting out the link as often as I can, encouraging others to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we gotta pimp this shit out somehow.
Yeah. Blast it out every day, man.
As you get some
pants strong.
as you get some art done, before you add lettering to it, throw some pages up on the IndieGoGo. Show some people who might not have seen it before, who were just browsing, because that artwork gonna sell books, man. And you said you had done some work. you have done some work for heavy metal. Is that what you
I have. Yeah,
you
yeah, I
have?
have.
So I'm
had,
very interested in hearing about that.
Okay. A really long time ago, I just decided to send something to them. It was awful. It was the first comic I ever had published. It
What
was
was it?
called Trenches. It
Trenches?
was a no, it's called Trenches. Like it was a World War One story,
Right, trenches.
and it was
I'm Southern.
yeah.
Give me a break.
Oh. But anyway, and it was awful. It was just a dreadful comic. But Kevin Eastman liked it, and I remember I had to wait about a year and a half to get word back that he wanted to publish it. And I was like so excited because I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I was all like, oh my god, you know. So they published it, and it looked terrible, and I felt really, really bad for a long time. But it didn't stop me from sending them more stuff, and eventually, I think I had 4 stories in there.
Okay.
And it was like a learning process because I didn't really know how to do everything digitally yet. But by the time I got through the 4th story, I had learned how to do everything like I do now. And that
Okay.
one was my favorite. It was called that one was called Miss Necro, and I think Jesse might have seen this one. It was a zombie beauty pageant. Did I ever show you that?
Yeah, you did. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like this guy. It was like all these chicks in a cemetery, and they were all dead. Of course, they were all zombified, and they were wearing bikinis. And they were, instead of being like Miss Missouri or Miss Texas or whatever, it was by the way they died. It was like Miss Heroin Overdose or Miss Car Accident, or Miss
Oh,
Shark
okay.
Attack.
That's
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Like the host was making all these jokes. He was a zombie guy in like this white white pinstripe suit or something, and he was all like, he's like, oh, here comes our contestants. They're dead sexy. And
Sounds
two of the,
fantastic.
yeah, like two of the contestants, like this one's all like, he's like, so what do you want to do after you win? And she's like, oh, I want to make like I want to start a program for our corpses in the inner city so they can be dead with dignity and all that kind of stuff. And this other zombie chick, she's all like, oh, that's just a total crock. And they start fighting. And then the one's all like, you've had so many formaldehyde injections, blah, 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 blah. And they start fighting, the body parts start flying off. So they're like beating the crap out of each other. The end of the story is all like the host is all like, yeah, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. So that was
Where can we find this? Because I need to read this.
that one is in, actually, I've got it right here on the table in front of me. It's it is Heavy Metal number 274. That one came out in 2015, actually.
I bet they're the back issue of that at my shop somewhere.
I'm putting that down so I can remember in the morning to look for it. You said 274?
Correct.
274.
All right.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds fantastic. We recently looked at and reviewed the Kevin Eastman Studios Ragdoll comic that he put out.
Yeah.
Because he's got his own little publishing studio now, it seems, and is putting out some smaller titles. So that's pretty neat. The fact that you've communicated directly with them makes me very envious of you as a human being.
I only talked. I actually never actually talked to him except one time on the phone for 5 seconds.
Nice.
Because I'd always communicate him through the mail, and he'd sign contracts and stuff, which I still have those with his actual signature on them. And I'm like, oh my god, it's like a prized possession kind of thing. But
yeah.
I remember one time for one of the stories, I had sent a disc with a bunch of JPEGs on it and stuff, and they're like, we didn't get it, and I had to wait 2 extra months. I kept waiting, and I was like, why are they not telling me they got the stuff for my story? And then so it turned out somebody had put it in the wrong place, and I had to send it again, and blah blah blah. And usually I would if I had called or whatever, I'd have talked to this woman named Deborah. And one time I called, and I was just like, hello, and I hear he goes, yeah, hello, this is Kevin. It's Kevin Heavy Metal. And I was like, what? I was like, oh. I was like, I'm supposed to tell you, and I told him what I had to do. And he's like, oh yeah, hang on, let me transfer you. And then I was like, Kevin Eastman, and he goes, yes. And I was like, I loved the Ninja Turtles when I was growing up. And he's like, thanks, man. That's cool. Click.
You blew it.
Like,
You blew it.
yeah, I was like, yeah.
It happens. We would both do the same thing, Ayrton and I.
Yeah. It was like a total nerdgasm. I was just like, oh my god.
That's probably going to happen when Ching comes on the show.
Yeah, we've been trying to book the author for the Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters ever since we reviewed those. Yeah, and he's actually coming on the 10th, which is next Sunday. Yeah, next Saturday or Sunday. Yeah.
I remember that was like the big rival to the Turtles back in the day, if I remember correctly.
I mean, they were amusing. I liked them a whole lot, but they were absolutely ridiculous. In the best way possible, of course, but absolutely ridiculous. Literally, the excuse for some things was because comics.
Too much fan service, no, whatever.
Exactly. They go from being the heroes and stopping a plane hijacking to blowing up the Statue of Liberty in the span of one comic book. And it's all the same story, too. It's not like it just started off on a new day. No, this was a continuous thing. This was like 3 days and 5 comics. Great. But yeah, we'll have him on next Saturday, I believe. So that'll be great. I'll have to keep Ayrton from fangirling entirely too much. I'll have to figure out if I can isolate and mute him, or if I just have to kick him off the call.
I'll be good.
So that's interesting. You are actually the first major published author we've had on, I believe, like for comic books.
Oh. Yeah, major published 4 tiny stories. Yeah,
I'm telling you, like as far as being published in something like heavy metal.
Oh, okay, that's one thing. Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Okay.
So that's what I mean. Like I'm saying, like if you had a Marvel or DC story, even if it was like a backup story in a comic that you have like 10,000 copies of because none of it sold, you would still be the most published comic author that we've talked to. Don't sell me short on this, cool. Man. I'm happy about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Bask in the glory. Lie to me. Tell me you're better than you are. Be like, yeah, I was gonna write Spider-Man, but they didn't want to give me the money.
I dropped my dick on the desk and called him a bunch of cucks and walked out.
Right.
Make up something.
Right, lie to me. Well, he might want to actually get a job there one day if they clean up their act, so we better be good.
Yeah, if they clean up their act.
If they clean it up. Oh, my God. I think the worst thing Marvel's done lately is trying to make their comics like the movies.
No, the worst thing they've done lately is relaunch Captain Marvel 8 times.
The most entertaining thing that keeps failing.
No,
it's the number one mindset. It's that number one mindset. They keep thinking, you know what? If we keep releasing a new number one issue, people keep buying it.
Yeah, because I don't have a back issue box, like a short box full of just Captain Marvel that we've never sold before we stopped ordering it.
So what are some of your favorite comics? Like off the top of your head, like what would they be?
Who, me?
Yes.
Rom Space Knight, Spider-Man, Green Lantern, Criminal, Boys, Fables by Bill Willingham.
Boys.
You want me to keep going?
Oh, no, I was just curious. I love knowing what people's comic picks are.
I love everything. Like that's the thing. Like if it's not entirely too childish and girly, I'll read it. Like I'm not a My Little Ponies fan or a Sonic fan. But I did read Rat Queens for a while, and that was really good. You know, I've read East of West, which was fantastic. The Secret Wars, all three
That is
of
a good
them
one.
were fantastic. Hickman's Fantastic Four run. This is my show. This is what I do.
My kind
not-
of fellow.
You came up to the right show, man. Like,
I'm
you're
not talented enough to create my own comic with my own artistic or writing integrity. So I just read everyone else's and talk about them like armchair quarterback.
Well, I have so many long boxes I could make furniture out of it if I needed to. So that's cool.
I almost could. I think I have 10
Why
or
not?
12. I think I have 10 or 12 long boxes and 10 or 12 short boxes.
You could at least make a cool throne out of them.
Yeah. I could
Yeah,
definitely make a throne of comics. That would be
I could
interesting.
do that. I could actually do that.
Pretty epic.
But my most prized possession is a full set of ROM Space Knight and a complete set of Age of Apocalypse in like
Oh,
just barely
Age of
red
Apocalypse.
condition.
Good.
Yeah,
That was one of my favorite stories.
I have a
That was one of
long.
the last great
Go ahead.
X-Men stories, I think.
It was good. There were a few that were okay in between, like the X-Force, I believe it was, with Wolverine, Phantom X, and Psylocke and Angel.
Yeah, that was
That-
okay.
Yeah, it was all right. I liked it. The whole concept of a clone of Apocalypse that they're trying to make good. I don't like the way the character turned out today, but the origin of that character is in.
Mm-hmm. So I have to ask. I have
but-
to ask. Rob Liefeld, fan or no fan?
I love pouches, man. I think you should be able to get pouches added to your costume $1 a piece. I think everybody needs an excessive number of pouches. I'm upset that more people. I'm upset that more people don't have the Green Lantern shield in comics.
Personally, I love Rob Liefeld's stuff. I just think it's very energetic. Like, of course, it's not very realistic, but who cares? It's a comic book. You know?
It's comics.
But- yeah.
It's detailed.
Comics.
Here's the thing. I have a very unique
People
outlook.
rag on him all the time, but
I
I
have
don't like it when people rag on him because I love his stuff.
Well, my question is, let these people that are ragging on him do better and sell comic books and make money,
Yeah,
because that's what Rob Liefeld's doing while he doesn't give a shit about your opinion of his art.
No joke.
I mean,
he's like Scrooge McDuck. He's back there swimming in the money pit while everyone's like, "Man, you suck."
that's the thing that I like to talk about. Like, we can say what we want to about artists and writers and their opinions and how we don't agree with it, but like Mark Waid. Let's take Mark Waid for instance. He's been a hot topic recently because of the Richard Meyer thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm assuming as an enthusiast of comic books, you've read Kingdom Come.
Yes. Oh, love it. Yes.
You're
And
aware of.
he also wrote my favorite run on Captain America ever with
Okay.
Ron Garney. That was
He had a pretty good
Very
run on
good.
Spider-Man.
mm-hmm.
He wrote Irredeemable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a good one.
He wrote Incorruptible, which wasn't as good, but it took me back to Batman the Animated Series, so I forgave it. Now, even though go ahead.
I even liked his work for CrossGen. I loved Ruse. That was one of my favorite comics at the time.
I haven't made it to
It's fun.
reading a lot of CrossGen yet. I'm a bit of a what I like to say is a wannabe comics historian. I've read stuff dating back to 1938. I've read 1937, 1938. Obviously, the origin of the superhero. I've read Shadow pulps. I've read Doc Savage pulps. John Carter of Mars, stuff like that. The stuff that led to the idea of the superhero adventurer.
Yellow Kid.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Aaron?
Those dead Yellow Kid. Those
Oh,
dead
yeah,
Yellow
we-
Kid comics we read
yeah.
from the Platinum Age.
Yeah, we did a show on the Platinum Age of Comics, the newspaper starters, and throughout every era, there's something to take away. And throughout every era, there's something that changes in a way that you don't like. Like, a lot of people were against Batman being vicious again in The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, yeah.
People
forget, back in the beginning, Batman was running around with a gun in the old Golden Age comics.
Right,
and he was around plugging people.
Yeah, well, and, he didn't have an Alfred. There wasn't a Batmobile.
There wasn't a Robin in the beginning.
Yeah, they didn't even expect... I don't think they expected it to have the longevity that it did.
Mm-hmm.
It
Some
was a
days
fun...
you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they put Robin in there to make him more like appealing and like family friendly? Because he was like too dark and vicious back in the day?
Yeah. But before I get too off track on my original point with the Mark Waid thing, you have your opinions about Mark Waid, but Mark Waid's made his money. I mean, he's made his impact on the comic industry. He can be a giant man baby if he wants to. I don't think anybody's going out and burning their copies of Kingdom Come because of it.
No.
It doesn't make you like the story any less, I don't think. It may make you think back on the creator of that story. And let's just be real here. Kingdom Come is Alex Ross's story because it was the same story of Marvel's.
True, that's true.
Just different trappings. But nobody's going to look back on Kingdom Come or Irredeemable and they're going to say, well, now that I know that a Cuck's written it, I don't like it anymore. They might not buy anything that he puts out now in protest, but I bet a lot more people would be willing to read something he wrote if you could kind of guarantee that there wasn't a agenda behind it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
True.
So I think that these people that go out and talk about these professionals, like they raise their profile to the people that don't like us.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does no good to go at them or talk shit about them because they're either going to laugh at you or spurg out, but they're still going to be sitting as a successful person in the industry. Ethan Van Sciver made a point the other day when he was talking about Doug TenNapel putting out 5 times as many pages, and that made him 5 times the comics artist. That's petty stuff because if you look at it that way, Mags Visaggio put out like 1,500 pages, so she's 5 times the artist Doug is.
True.
Are you going to make that comparison, or are you going to compare quality and you're going to compare art style and you're going to compare, what a certain person deems acceptable and what another one deems acceptable?
Hell, I know in Japan, some of the manga companies, they work in teams and they'll put out like 200-300 pages a month.
Yeah.
Because everything's weekly over there. They're cranking that shit out.
Yeah. And we sit over here and we talk about how 300 pages deserves $250,000, and I'm not saying it doesn't, or $750,000. And I'm not saying it doesn't if people will pay for it. But this is not the hardest task that these people have done. I'm not taking away the task that they've done. I couldn't do it, but it's not like they're working like those guys are. I mean, they're working on a very cushy schedule, and little guys that not to say you're a little guy in the industry, but like little promotions like the one you guys are running that doesn't have a lot of steady backing or whatever, or 100,000 followers to promote it to. They don't understand the process of, we don't have these teams. You're doing everything yourself.
They're not a one-man. They're not a one-man band.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Right.
Well, some of them are, and you see it in their work, because what I told, I don't know if you're familiar with Monster MD, Von Klaus's comic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it.
I was on a show with him and Clint from Sweetcast and Eric Weathers, and all 3 of them put out a crowdfunded book. And when you just looked at the work that they put into it, they were 3 vastly different books, but you could see the love. You could see the affection for the art form that they had put into these books, and it was something that you don't see when you open a Marvel comic anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all corporate.
Yeah, we looked at the new X-Men books by Hickman, and the writing was fantastic, and the art was really good in certain places, but you could see where it was rushed in others, where there were just like scratches for faces and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan
Yeah.
of the scritchy, scratchy artwork that's popular around a lot nowadays.
Yeah, like an uncanny valley sort of feel on some of the faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me feel like, okay, I've just got to pump this out so that I can get to the deadline for the next month's book. And that's that's something that you don't see. Like if you flip through Spawn number 4, 5, you don't say number 1, okay? Because the number 1 is always going to be the best presentation put forward, I think.
Oh, of course.
You know, if the artist has the integrity to put out a product, they're going to try and put the best possible product out there to get you hooked, so that if they do come down in a little bit of quality later on, they've got you. They've got you
reeled in already.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing; it happens a lot. But your first issue is going to be your best issue as far as art and plotting goes, I think. Because
I agree with that, Steve.
After that, you're trying to meet a deadline. First issue you can push back, and people aren't really waiting on it if it's not like a hot book. You know, people will wait a week or two because they have no choice.
That's true. I remember when the Ultimates and Ultimates 2, those are some of my favorite superhero comics. And I remember they would wait months, and like 6, 7, 8, 9 months, a year between just because Brian Hitch's artwork was taking so long. But when you'd get it, it would be like, wow, this is good stuff.
Well,
but yeah, I agree with you. The first issue is always the best.
If you look at like Spawn issue number, hell, let's take it up to like 18, 19. The artwork is just as impeccable on that issue as it is in issue 1, I think.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell by the way that Todd McFarlane talks about creator ownership and stuff like that, how much he cared about that character in that book. Savage Dragon's become a joke now.
Yeah.
Savage Dragon used to be that way, but it's a joke now.
Savage Dragon used to be one of my favorites. It was just because it was such a badass, crazy comic. Was just, I mean, it was everything was in there. I mean, just anything you could possibly want. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. It was
comic.
It was a mutant dragon man with a giant fin on his head, and he was a cop.
Yes. Oh. And then he became, first he was a cop, then he was like a superhero, and then he was like a bounty hunter, and then he was a cop again, and then I kind of lost track after that.
Yeah. But you just don't get that kind of love anymore from comic books. Like I saw that in Secret Wars, the main series in 2015. Jonathan that was a love letter from Jonathan Hickman to the Marvel Universe, because it encapsulated everything that was great about the Marvel Universe ever.
True.
You know, you had your old-time X-Men, so you got a rebirth of the X-Men 92, when the TV show brought in more popularity to the franchise than anything had since the original Uncanny and Claremont runs. You had Old Man Logan era, because that era of Wolverine was just so well received. It was Wolverine's The Dark Knight Returns, essentially.
Yeah.
You had did you read the Secret Wars and pick up on any of the...
I did.
Okay, so
on the subtleties, yes. I did like, that was probably one of the last like Marvel stories that I actually did read. I haven't read anything from them in a few years.
Not to flex too hard, but I do have a long box that is nothing but the Secret Wars from the 87 series, the 92 series and the tie-ins, and then the 2015 series and all of the tie-ins. All 250-something books.
Now, that's pretty cool. That was like the last Marvel story I actually thought was any decent, was that.
So... No, I love comic books, man. I've loved the medium for so long, and I've hated to see what's happened to it, because the same comic shop that I've been going to since I was a kid has been in business for 31 years, and I've just watched the comic rack get smaller, smaller, smaller.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm with you. I love comics too. It's like it gets in your blood, doesn't it? I mean, it's just kind of
Well,
just
yeah,
ignites your imagination.
you can sit down and you can, and if anybody else wants to say anything, feel free to speak. I mean,
Hey, I'm letting you guys go.
I'm listening.
But I
Learning.
will say,
Taking notes.
before I got in touch with Church for this show, I had actually kind of fallen out of reading comics for a good while there. But doing this again has kind of reignited my love for this art form specifically, and I love it. It's the main reason I like doing this show is rediscovering how much I love this art. And yeah, anyways, you two continue.
Well, I want to get your opinion on something. If as a longtime fan of the medium, have you ever noticed that when you spend too much time, like ongoing, reading the same stuff, that you just kind of get fatigued by it almost?
Bite out of habit. You like bite out of habit almost.
Yeah, you get to the point where you buy.
Yeah.
Like the way that always goes is you eagerly start reading the comic, and then you just keep eagerly getting it and reading it as soon as you have your hands on it, maybe in the car before you even leave the comic store. And then eventually you put it in the bag, and you may read it that night or the next day, and eventually you just put it in the pile. You're not reading much of anything in the pile. Then you just start canceling books off your pull list.
You're like buying it. There's like a point. There's a point I've noticed with the long running series when you start out, as you said, you're like super devoted to it, and then it's almost like you start buying it out of loyalty at a point.
Right.
Where you're like, hey, I've got the first 200 issues of Captain whatever, and it's just like I think I need to keep you keep hoping that it's going to be back to what it was in the beginning.
Well, they tease you. I think the big two have a problem in the fact that they've gotten us used to the idea that either every few issues or every milestone the writing and artist team is going to change.
Oh yeah.
And you just hope that the next team is going to be better, but you don't want to have a break in your run.
Yeah, that's
what it is.
Comic book mentality. They abuse that too. They abuse that because they know that we're not going to want to break our collection, so they abuse it. And they're all like, "Oh yeah."
And then you occasionally get brilliance like Straczynski's Thor that we actually had Thor Odinson from Twitter. You have
love that.
Yeah,
I love the artwork in that.
World War Hulk was a good one.
Oh yeah.
Secret.
Civil War was pretty good.
Civil War 1 was good.
I didn't read Civil War 2, so
I did, unfortunately. We don't talk about it.
Hey, real quick. My power is flickering, so if I disappear randomly, that would be why.
Okay.
Oh damn.
Real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and fire Ayrton for the integrity of the show, just in case he can't be fired later.
Remember you warned me about that, so I guess that's the first firing, right?
Yeah. So sometimes there are multiple. It depends on how many terrible jokes he makes, or how much dead air he lets happen.
Here's one of the problems that needs to be addressed in like mainstream big two comics. And I see this solely in them, and I don't see this in a lot of indie comics or self-published comics or I don't even see it in like manga or European comics or anything like that. But there's no third act. There's no real ending to it because they know it's almost like a never-ending soap opera kind of thing. Like they know, even if they put the characters in jeopardy, even if they kill them, they have to bring them back.
Right.
And it almost becomes it just never ends. Never ends. But
I had a point to kind of add to that, and then we'll continue if you don't mind. Of course, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just blatantly.
Oh no, you didn't interrupt. No.
One thing that has always bothered me is this big diversity push that they've been doing. It seems to me that it always ends up being a minority or of color or a minority of gender, assuming the mantle of another character instead of being created as a new character. Now, there are instances like...
Sorry, I just need to... I really don't understand how you can have a minority of gender when it's like a 50-50 split between male and
kidding.
female.
Well, the thing is, like, when you get what I'm saying, though, like when you change Iron Man from Tony Stark to Riri Williams.
Yeah, it's just
Or there's
that
the Jane Foster
phrase
Thor.
doesn't make any sense. Like the population's about 50-50.
It is, but what I'm getting at is, in superhero comics, there are less women than men. I mean, we can all agree on that, right?
This is true.
I mean, you get about one prominent female character for about every 5 to 10 male characters, depending on the storyline and or universe.
Oh,
and
here we go.
Cans.
Oh no, is Church going SJW?
No. I'm saying that we can all agree that women are less represented in comics than men. That's not
it's a sausage fest. Yeah,
right. It's not. It's not a sausage fest, but it's not. It's not a female-driven hobby either, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
you definitely still have strong female characters, so I don't see a problem in representation. It's just a problem in consumer base, I think. Because how many times has Marvel and DC tried to push female-driven products?
Yeah, and then everybody laughs in their face and tells them to fuck off.
Well, I mean, DC Superhero Girls is a success. It captured little girls' attention. It became kind of like a Barbie doll show with DC characters. That's fine. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is when you take, like Iron Man, an established character, instead of creating a new character that would stand on its own merit and giving it a chance to be accepted or denied by the audience. And then you always have it to come back to instead of having to renege on your initial idea and then bring back the original character anyway.
Yes.
Right.
Miles Morales stayed the only Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe, and then they brought him into the Marvel Universe. So I give him a pass on that. Mm-hmm. They didn't try to replace Spider-Man and then have a white guy come in and still be there too because Miles wasn't good enough. Right. Miles was brought into the mainstream for being the only Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. Cool.
They even tried doing that even way back in the day in the Captain America storyline where U.S. Agent tried to take over. Like
right.
They were doing that not even with minorities. But they've been doing that for a long, long time. They said, hey, let's try to spice it up by God, do you remember the storyline with the Punisher where they tried to turn him into a black man? Like they had seriously, no.
Yeah,
they had a storyline. Yeah, they had a storyline where he had been really messed up in a gunfight somewhere. So he went and got plastic surgery, right? This isn't like 90 or 91,
and somehow the plastic surgery made him black.
The plastic surgery turned him black, which is A, extremely offensive, and B...
Well, it's just a reverse Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
that's right. It's revitiligo.
I mean... Yeah, but I mean... But if you think about it, what were they trying to do here? Were they trying to because you also you pointed out that it's a male dominated hobby, a male dominated industry. It's also unfairly, I should say, a white dominated industry. Because and I don't think that's very fair.
I don't think that it's unfair either. I mean, I don't think that it's dominated in that sense. I don't think that I don't think it's a systematically racist environment. Obviously, with the diversity hires and stuff like that at Marvel and DC recently, it definitely isn't anymore. It may have been in like the 60s and 70s, but that was the culture of the time.
True.
So the fact is that you've always had characters like the Black Panther. You've always had characters who, I mean, Jon Stewart was introduced as the first Green Lantern for a cartoon show in our generation, I believe. After the Super Friends, of course. But that wasn't our generation.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that the idea of forcing an agenda instead of letting your customer base basically dictate what they will and won't buy is the biggest issue in the big two right now. I have no
I would
problem
agree with that.
with trying to affirm diversity and but do it right. Don't do it in a sense of, okay, well, you're a white guy, so we don't give a shit what you think. And I'm like, motherfucker, I put millions of dollars in your pockets. You know, not necessarily.
Problem is, though, even if you did a storyline, when you do a storyline now where you shake things up, like let's say you switch the race or a gender, or you have like, I don't know, Captain Marvel, or not Captain Marvel, sorry, Captain America doing this, that, or the other.
Captain Marvel used to be an alien man named Marvel, so yes, Captain Marvel too.
That's that's true.
I mean, whenever you do that, you know, these SJW types will like latch on to them and be like, "Oh my god, see what they're doing! Oh my god, they're so like promoting it as if it's some sort of like political thing."
And then it doesn't sell from the retailers, though. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. Like, if the people want this so badly, where are the people buying it?
That's true.
Right. Why is it hard to push 100,000 units out the door now? Like, Batman used to be the benchmark with 100,000 units, but that's not even close anymore.
That was always the argument with there's also the argument with people saying, "Oh, we don't like superhero comics." But what sells the best? I mean, really.
Yeah,
like, they're always like, "Oh, we want something literate. We want something like Vertigo."
They don't like cheesy superhero comics. They like deconstructionist superhero comics, like Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. They like
and I love cheesy superhero comics.
Right.
I have a fondness for just bad comics. I don't know if it's like watching them. You know, like seriously, some comics when you pick them up and they're like bad artwork, bad story. It's like watching a really bad B movie or something. You know? It's all like,
those are my favorite. Just ask George.
Yeah.
I love
the shit that he makes me read. Jesus Christ. He's like, yeah, I saw this and I want to read it on the show so we can review it. And I'm like, you mean I have to read this shit too? Let me find something good to counterbalance. See, it's never fair for me. I can never get revenge on him because then I have to read two bad comics.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's fun. I love good comics, but I have like this guilty pleasure for just awful comics. Like I'll pick it up and just like, man, this is gonna suck, and oh god, it does, and this is glorious.
If it's awful in a fun way, if it's awful in like a, you know, let's see, what was
not like
the last era of X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
The last era of X-Men. That's not bad in a good way. That's bad in a sad way. That's bad in a way that makes me hurt.
But like that in an over the top ridiculous sort of way. That's what I love.
See, Axe Cop should have been like that, but it was actually really, really good.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, I think that. Go ahead.
Well, it's just weird how much that the big two don't understand basic supply and demand. Like I think Jesse knows this, but Damascus, you don't. I run a tobacco store as my day job.
Okay.
I can't just get rid of like all of my cigars that sell really well and then get a bunch of crap and say like, no, you all have to buy this. I would go out of business if I did that. And that's common sense. Like, even if I hate the cigars, but people are buying them, I need to keep them in stock and sell those because that's what people are buying. Or like a grocery store. If you run a grocery store and you hate peas, you still have to sell peas because people buy peas.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get how this escapes these corporate nut jobs in the big two.
No, see, you don't understand. The trick is what do you have to do to sell even more peas is tell everyone going into the store that they're racist, that you don't want them as customers.
Let me explain this to you in actual terms as to what's happening right now. Most comic book and gaming stores, fortunately, are owned by people with a good seed in life, and they're buying them and using them as comic book stores or board game stores or whatever, but they're doing so much. Like, they're selling pop figurines, T-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, they're hosting game nights for Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and stuff like that. And they're the ones buying the comics directly from Diamond. So that's where your sales numbers come. Okay?
Right.
So a lot of these people will indeed hold this view that, oh, well, I guess if they're selling this and people have asked for it or they want it, and it's a new number one, so people will probably buy it. And what shop owners are realizing is that is not the case anymore, because most of the actual customers of the industry have been run off by the professionals in that industry.
True.
However, as far as the publishers go, they're still pushing issues through Diamond to these people. So it doesn't matter. And they're selling the trades to colleges that hold these leftist values. And, I hate to say it, but when you have a cover for Mockingbird that says, "Ask me about my feminist agenda," you've eliminated 90% of your comic customer base.
90?
Yes,
Talk like
true.
97.
I was being fair and accounting for soy boys.
Oh, okay.
And if you're, there are feminists out there, and there are people out there that have the idea of real feminism, of equality, and all that good stuff. But this radical feminism thing, it doesesn't sell to men.
Yeah.
Right.
We
it's like
just want a blowjob and a sandwich.
Yeah, right. That's it. Keep it simple.
I disavow. So blowjob and a pizza is the lyric, sir.
Keep it,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. As long as we
Sorry.
keep it simple and traditional,
I'm sorry
that's
for
all
my
that matters,
cultural
right?
insensitivities.
But no, you have these industry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in their attempts to attract. This also ties into like their attempts to attract a new audience all the time, because they're trying. The publishers are trying to attract a new audience. They're always saying they want other people from the outside to come in, and they always go about it, and as you pointed out, in an ass backwards way about it, because they're always saying also that they want more female readers. But when they put out a female superhero or something, it appeals to. They don't actually try to appeal to women. They try to appeal to men, which turns the women off.
Well, I don't think that there's that big of a market looking for a female-driven comic, and females that do read comics read those same characters.
They read manga. A lot of female readers read manga. That's the thing.
That is.
They're the ones that figured it out.
I agree with that. But I do know some female comic fans, and they read.
But manga's
Batman.
pretty pervy too, Damascus. That's the thing. They figured it out, and manga is still actually I think even pervier. We're talking about manga that comes out from Japan. That's where the tentacle porn and shit is at. Okay, so I just will throw that.
I disavow.
I'm firing Jesse.
I wasn't even hired. I'm just trying to put some perspective there. I'm trying to put some. They want forced diversity and all these changes.
I appreciate your love. I appreciate your Lovecraftian diversity.
There's a bigger picture there, but
I mean, he is right though. I dated a girl back in high school who just loved manga and anime.
What I was getting at,
though, I mean, there is something about it.
Right. But there are females that do read comics. However, those females usually are going to buy what they want to buy and don't necessarily want to be pandered to either. But again, like I said, they've done stuff like DC Superhero Girls to get young girls. And that's something that I think was a lot more successful than Mockingbird going, "Ask me about my feminist agenda."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And one thing that I've noticed is that they do need to go for new readers all the time. Every industry needs to always go after a new market and replace the market that they're losing constantly, because comic books especially are a very short-lived hobby for a lot of people. You get about 5 good years out of a reader. Unless they become, a full...
Like us.
Yeah.
Right.
But
like us, then
go ahead and call the spades here. We have to cop to it. But you get about 5 good years out of an average comic fan, so you need to be putting out a Spider-Man book that's all ages, so that that guy coming in and spending $50 a week on comic picks it up for his little brother or little sister. You need to be putting out a comic for girls like My Little Pony or something like that. You also need to be putting out something a little more adventurous. You need to be putting out something a little more adventurous for girls, like Winona Earp as a kid-friendly version, or a female superhero or something like that. Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau is a great candidate. But just hint, nudge, nudge. But you need to capture that younger market and grow into their reading style. You need an all ages, a young adult, and an older adult version of Spider-Man, so that kids can grow up with Spider-Man forever.
No, it sounds like we're about to segue into our weekly Alterna shilling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Peter Simeti is absolutely just the best publisher out there right now. I think. No offense, Mr. Deadman, but as far as comics are concerned, I think Peter Simeti has been killing it with his creator-owned publishing. There are all ages, teen and adult books on Alterna, so there's something for everyone. Everything from fun to horror. So if you don't read Alterna, you're messing your life up. That's all I'm saying. But even these people, they go after a guy like him who's Italian and Asian American, and they call him a Nazi,
which is a weird combination.
Oh man, the restaurants were right side by side. I'm sorry. Sorry.
The Chinese actually invented noodles, right?
There was a dog shelter right next to the Chinese place.
Shut up, Aaron. Digging the hole further, brother.
The Chinese actually invented noodles, so.
Right. The ramen noodles are a zinc type noodle as opposed to a flour noodle. But yeah, pasta was a Chinese invention. We also wouldn't have gunpowder if it wasn't for the Japanese.
Yeah, that's right.
Or tea.
Tea or cheese?
Tea.
I think tea. Tea.
Okay, tea. Yeah,
I'm
but
the only one here who drinks tea.
No, you're not. But
I drink tea.
But I want to say that as an American, the only thing tea's good for is dumping into harbors.
True.
Yeah. I mean,
that's its number one use.
Right.
But it can be tasty if there's no harbor around to dump it into.
No, it's also good for judging the cost of things in comparison to the price of tea in China. But no, I don't know.
Do you think the revolutionaries said?
Go ahead.
Do you think the revolutionaries said? Do you think the revolutionaries said "fuck Lipton" when they dumped it in the Boston Harbor there?
I don't know. If there was a British officer named Lipton at the port, then probably. Maybe that's where tea got its name from.
Yeah.
And it's now and forever my headcanon. But no, I think the comic industry could definitely use a retooling, so to speak.
It's right for it. I'm hearing you guys talk about this stuff. It's like, yeah, it's time for some people to come in there, and that's what we're seeing, right?
The only thing you can do is just not buy their comics and buy other good comics.
Or now hear me out on this. We buy some of their crappy comics like Squirrel Girl and Ask Me About My Feminism, and we dump them all into a harbor.
Into the harbor, right.
Yeah.
Right. Could we wear revolutionary uniforms made out of the comics?
Of course.
I'm with this idea. Oh, yeah.
It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, we'll just enable text to speech. That'll end well. We'll go down to Florida and do it. I'll bring my gun. That was a joke.
There we go.
Joke.
Stay back.
I will not be telling anyone to stay back.
We will defend ourselves.
But
if you wear enough comics, it can turn into Kevlar.
it can.
True.
Usually phone books work better and they're cheaper. And that's one thing we could talk about is price of
Phone
comics.
books?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Again, Alterna shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That's newsprint for you though, and that's fantastic, and I'm glad it's happening.
Yeah.
But let me just pull these out here now. Right now, a comic book that's 22 pages and nothing special whatsoever is
Like $4, isn't it?
$4 or $5, right?
Yeah.
The average cost of a comic book in 1991, the buck $1.50, yeah, $1.50, something like that. I'm holding a couple of 96 Marvel versus DC and DC versus Marvel books,
Those are good.
and they're a $4 price tag.
Yeah,
So-
my adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters that I got from Amazon were $1.50.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're
Back in
the $4.
1986.
There's a $4 price tag on these 40 page books.
Yeah.
So you're getting twice the comic for the same price in 1996. An 80-page comic from Peru as of last month was $1.20 American.
Roughly.
They always blame it on paper stock and paper prices going up. That's always what I hear. Whenever
Yeah.
they say that, there's a price increase, it's the paper stock.
So print on newsprint.
Yeah.
You can't.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. That's another thing I never understood is like back in the old days, when they'd sell, 500,000 copies a month back in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s when it was newsprint, and they're like, man, it's like they're printing money. And then they switched to a different paper stock, lose sales
because of the collectability. Collectability killed comic books.
That is true. I would agree with that.
Back in the 90s, even with all the hollow foil covers and stuff like that. Like, I like that people like Ethan Van.
That's Kevlar.
That's right. I like that Ethan Van Sciver did the chromium covers, and you knew what you were getting with that. I like that Doug TeNapel does the hardbound to make up for the cost of the book, but that's not a sustainable market for a comic industry. I don't think that people are going to continuously, and they could surprise me. People could have really, really deep wallets, and I'm just not. But there are other campaigns out there where you get 3 physical copies of a book and the trade paperback for like $15.
Mm-hmm.
You need a way to make sure that somebody can get a book shipped to them for $5, basically, in the grand scheme of things. Whether you're shipping them 12 books as you wrote 12 and put it out as a 12-issue series, or putting it out as a trade paperback and you're charging 10 to 15 for it. I mean, it's gotta get to a point where buying comics isn't an investment for people anymore, because we can't. It used to be that, you're printing money for the simple fact that these things are going to be worth money one day. But that didn't turn out to be the case, did it?
True. Yeah.
How many 50-cent bins do you see in your travels?
Yeah, no kidding.
So.
Yeah, that was the problem in the 90s is when they started printing like 5-6 million copies an issue. Of course, something with that. They take the rare. What makes something worth something is the rarity of it.
Right.
So if there's like 5 million copies of Superman 75 or whatever, that's never gonna be worth anything.
Right. Well, yeah. The Death of Superman issue. I've got the black bag. I've got the white bag. I've got the raw issue. $6. That's a $6 book in the bag with all the add-ons for it, because that's what the cover price was.
Yeah, even those, even the like I said, I love Jim Lee, but even the X-Men #1 with him and Claremont when they relaunched X-Men,
with like
back
8
in 91.
covers.
With like 8. I think there was 5 covers. Like, how many do you? I've got all of them. I've got all of them. And they made that's the best-selling comic of all time with like 8 million copies.
Because their shop sitting
never gonna be worth shit.
Yeah, well, their comic shop sitting around with long boxes full of that issue.
Yeah,
I've seen them. I've seen these long boxes. because they expected it to just keep flying off of shelves, and after your X-Men readers got a copy, and occasionally somebody, because that was the beginning of the multiple variant covers era, and the hollow foil covers and all that good stuff. And people just got
covers,
they got to the point where they were just like, I'm not going to spend that much money on these books because they're not going to appreciate. And I mean, hell, they didn't even have storage down back then. The old bags and boards you used to get, they used to fuck your books up and stick to them.
Oh yeah, they would. They were not acid-free stuff because all the color would come off and of your comics onto the boards and everything. Yep. I had that problem. I used to have that problem.
And that's the thing.
Well, the other thing they would do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the other thing they would do is it was almost like a bait and switch because they would have like these really cool covers, glow in the dark, holofoil, whatever, and then the interior artwork would suck.
Oh yeah, it would be
really bad.
Yeah, it would be scratcher art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a common theme, and that was when you realized that these industries were cashing in like the baseball card market did in the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
The same places.
That's one thing I liked about Spawn. That's one thing I liked about Spawn is that Todd McFarlane never did the multiple covers, never did like the bait and switch kind of thing. It was always like, as you pointed out, it was very high level of quality, sustained for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and I mean it always looked to improve. My wife in the chat, Mrs. Church. I don't read manga, but there are American mangas, and I have glow in the dark Venom. She does.
Oh.
She also
Mrs. Church was the one who suggested Johnny the Homicidal Maniac to us, right?
Yeah.
I like that comic.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
It was really fun. There was a lot to it though. Like it was so many like little things, like the quotes and the borders and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So much fun.
I'll never forget. I remember that it's rare to pull. It's hard to pull off humor in a comic like that, but that was pulled off very, very well.
Oh yeah.
I remember I think my favorite one in there was when the guy's sitting there with his girlfriend. He's about to have diarrhea and he's trying to hold it in. And
yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my god, somebody put shit in my pants!" And he goes like running out of the.
Yeah,
surrealist absurdism of it that makes it so enjoyable.
Right.
And it's like the one guy's like, "Hey, 777, that's your house. Isn't that the house? Isn't that the number for heaven or something? Does this look like heaven?"
All right. But no, we read all kinds of stuff on this channel, man. Since Marvel and DC haven't been putting out this kind of stuff that I would be interested in buying or reading recently, there's still some things I pick up. Like I make a point to pick up a lot of the True Believers comics. I picked up a couple of story arcs here and there, in like Daredevil or Doctor Strange. Little mini arcs and stuff like that look interesting. I'll pick up and read. But for the most part, I've been going back in time and I've been reading independent stuff. Like one of the best comics that I've ever read is a comic that we'll talk about on this show when we're both really, really sad and want to stay that way. But I Kill Giants, if you've ever had any experience with that. And you get stuff like that out there and you look at the crap that the big two are pushing out and you start to think that maybe a monthly, system isn't. Mrs. Church saying now we have to read Squee.
Squee.
But maybe this has evolved past being a monthly hobby.
I've heard that argument before, that to go only like graphic novel trade only. I've read about that debate before.
And close down Diamond, like just take the power away from Diamond, sell directly to the customer.
That was a big mistake. I remember that was a big mistake in the 90s when Marvel and DC had the distributor wars, where they. I remember for a while it was. I think Marvel went direct to a company. They bought a company called Heroes World or something like that, and they're
Right,
like, "This
yeah.
is going to be our exclusive distributor." And then DC is like, "Okay, well, we'll just pick. We'll pick. I can't remember who they picked. I think they picked Diamond or something like that to be exclusive." And for like a year or so, there was, it was turmoil in the industry because all these smaller distributors that had distributed all these small independent books were going out of business and
Right.
leaving these indie comics just high and dry. And then what happened, of course, is all of them collapsed. All the distributors collapsed, and then it was just Diamond, and they've been a monopoly ever since.
Right.
So that was a big wrong turn right there.
And I think that's been a detriment to the industry ever since, because all they've been interested in is maintaining that threshold. I mean, it's a little better now. There are services online that you can have that will send you comics directly. Small publishers like Peter Samedi and IDW. Digital comics are a thing, and I know that's kind of it's a taboo topic. I enjoy digital comics. I like them. I like reading physical comics, but digital comics I have a very large library of, and I can take it all with me.
I have no quarrel with that.
But there's always the argument against piracy. But I mean, if you've ever read a scanned digital comic book, then you know that there's no way to stop piracy in the internet age. But
very, very true.
Not that I support it in any ways, but there's times where you read something that you don't necessarily pay for, and then you go and you have to buy it because it's so good.
I've done that also. I did it with the series Girls, actually, from Image a few years ago.
Okay,
that was a really good comic. The Luna Brothers comics.
Really the last Image thing that I picked up that I really enjoyed was Glitter Bomb and Killer Be Killed.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I haven't read that one, but I've heard about that one.
Well, what I was getting to is that I've started reading a lot more independent stuff. I Kill Giants, Killer Be Killed, Criminal, a lot of Ed Brubaker stuff. I went back and read his runs on Batman because I've realized that I really like crime noir. Like I said, I've read Shadow Pulps. I've read, the Doc Savage comics, all like 6 different publishers worth of them. And
I always loved Hellblazer. I know it's not crime noir, but I always loved the feel of that. It was almost like a.
Yeah, the original '80s run of Hellblazer. Jesus Christ, that was some of the best comics ever written.
Isn't it? Isn't it though? That is. I back that statement 100%.
Like when they. Go ahead.
Go
ahead. You said it was almost like what?
It was almost like crime noir, except just with supernatural added into it. Because if you really think about it, it's very. I love it because it was very raw and gritty and very street level. It was. I love that. It's one of my favorite comics.
Yeah, and you
immediately the 80s run.
You immediately knew as soon as you saw somebody get close to John Constantine that they were going to be dead. By the end of the issue, they were gone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was like one of the running gags, and there was like, you don't want to be John Constantine's friend.
No. Yeah. And
a recent Image one that I liked was that Sonata, or is that Sonata one that's on issue 2 at the moment? I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, Sonata, the musical crime noir one where the guy kind of gets the guts to kill.
That's Killer Groove. That's after.
Oh, right.
Aftershock.
Right. What's Sonata? That's the one with the flying
bird creatures. Yeah. The 2 different humanoid inhabitants or colonizers of this planet, and the sleeping giant monsters and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, Kanto's kind of taken my high fantasy book for the time being. That's the ongoing high fantasy that I've been paying attention.
Yeah, issue 2 is really good.
Yeah, I know. I read it yesterday. I took a break from reading Spawn because it took me like an hour and a half to get through 2 issues, and I was like, I need a break. They're so good, but there's so much to read. There's so much exposition in a Spawn comic, especially the early days.
Yeah. Early ones. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
You get whole scrolls on
loved,
pages.
I loved Greg Capullo's artwork. That was when it switched from Todd McFarlane to Greg Capullo's artwork.
Yeah.
God, I love that.
Yeah, that's around issue 16 or 17.
That's right.
And
I always loved his artwork. I loved his artwork more than Todd McFarlane's artwork, honestly. That was never a very popular thing to say, but I always loved that.
that's almost blasphemy, but I'm going to let you have it. I did hunt down
just because you're our guest.
I did hunt down all of McFarlane's covers for Spider-Man when he was doing the Spider-Man series. I think there were like 13 or 14 of them. And I hunted down even the silver and black version of #1.
Oh yeah, I still have a poster of that actually.
Yeah. Well, you remember the original metal suit with the big shiny silver plate that Spider-Man wore?
Oh yeah, yep.
That was peak Spider Comics right there. That was the best Spider-Man ever.
I remember that, yeah.
But
Jesse, are you still alive?
He's not. He's gone.
I'm not dead yet. Not yet.
He's gone. He's hanging himself as we speak. 13 loops in the hangman's not Jesse.
I'm trying to achieve the Mr. Deadman over here. That's what I'm trying to do. No.
Oh,
Jesus, I can't even say it on YouTube. Oh,
I don't know if
so sorry.
I don't know if Jesse told you, but
Mr. Deadman know? Does Mr. Deadman know about the
in Minecraft, Jesse?
In Minecraft.
Yeah.
Does he know about what now?
Does he know about the thing that almost killed Spider-Man, the clone saga? Do you know about that?
No, we haven't talked about that. I was going to say that we did.
Clone saga?
Before you tell him, I did make him read Lock and Key with us. So
that
was good. That was a great comic.
That's a good one. I like the story and I love the artwork in that.
Go ahead and enlighten him on the Clone Saga. I'm going to go get a drink so my ears don't burn off.
All right. So back in about 95, 96, they decided they were going to replace Peter Parker with a clone. Okay, there was a story in the 70s where the Jackal had created a clone of Peter Parker, right? And the clone had allegedly died, and they dumped him down like an industrial mine shaft or a chimney or something like that. So 30 odd years later, they come out and they say, guess what, everybody? The Peter Parker you've been reading about, he's been the clone all along, So they decided to bring in this guy named Ben Reilly as the Scarlet Spider and say that he was actually Peter Parker. He was the one that survived. He thought he was the clone. Turns out they thought he was the real Spider-Man, and it turned into this. It was supposed to be a 6-issue story because nobody knew what the hell they were doing. Yeah, nobody knew what the hell they were doing, where to go with the storyline. It ended up being a 3-year story. They replaced Spider-Man with the clone. People hated it. And then Marvel figured out, hey, guess what? People don't like Spider-Man. They like Peter Parker. That's the thing. So then they had to undo it all. And that took another year and a half. They had to go back. They had to say, oh, wait, no, we made and there was another sub-storyline where Peter Parker and Mary Jane had a kid. And they brought Green Goblin back specifically to kidnap the kid, take him to Europe, and it was like it's like magically disappeared. You never ever heard about it again. And
because comics.
Because comics, exactly. And also, I think Aunt May died, and then after the storyline was over, Aunt May was alive again because comics. That's all. It was don't read. It was but it was a 3-year mess. But it was not the best time. And Spider-Man took a long time. I don't even know if it's still recovered. Honestly, it was it was fan reaction to that. There was talking about people burning their comics. I think there was a fan reaction to that. People were out there just like, we're not reading this crap anymore.
Did you tell him about?
Back to what?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Did you tell him about the part where there was a certain point in time where they flip-flopped on it being Peter Parker or Ben Reilly 4 times in a month?
Yes. Yeah. The Scarlet Spider and all that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like Ben Reilly was the real Peter Parker the whole time, and then the clone eventually died, but then there was another clone.
What? Oh my
Yeah, there
god,
was
that's so
pain.
convoluted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's worse
there
than
was
a Star
pain.
Wars prequel.
Yeah. Just making up stuff at that point.
They
Yeah.
were trying
They
to
were.
fix it.
And the writers that would come on to try and fix it didn't know the whole story, so they would screw it up halfway through.
They ended up with the storyline called Maximum Clonage, where everybody was a clone. They had like 500 Peter Parker clones, and he was trying to fight his way out of it.
That's where the Matrix got the idea for Neo. Or not Neo, Mr. Smith.
I would believe
It
that.
was one of the low points of Spider Comics right there.
Well, we did get the Scarlet Spider outfit.
Yeah.
That's
the
the
Scarlet
only
Spider outfit.
positive outcome.
If there was the ripped sweatshirt over the red suit.
Yeah, the maroon spandex and the red hoodie with no sleeves, or the blue hoodie with no sleeves, and the cockeyed print spider like he made it in silkscreen class.
I mean, is that not what the rest of you wear like every day, like to work and stuff?
The red spandex, yes, but I
all
wear
the time.
the
all the time, man.
yeah I wear the red spandex, but I use the 2-button suit coat.
You know what I always... Here's a fanboy question. How the hell do Superman and Batman, how do they get that cape? Like when they're wearing like their civvies, like how the hell do they get the cape like in the back of the suit? Like when Clark Kent's at the office or something, don't you think people would notice that giant hump in his back and go, Clark, what the hell is that?
Oh, no.
I mean,
the cape in.
Angel from X-Men has a special harness that he puts his wings in so he could wear a suit over top of his wings. So I would figure they would figure out how to just put a cape in there without it being noticed.
Well, they just have the collar. They just have the collar like added to a certain point that it just like flows.
And also, how the hell does Spider-Man go to the bathroom in that unitard? That's the other thing I've always wondered.
He's
He's swinging around. Like seriously, like he's swinging around. He's at some Taco Bell, and he's all like, he's halfway across Manhattan. He's like, oh shit, now what do I do?
Yeah, basically, Wolverine.
So like,
he would have a brown suit at this point if that was actually an issue, right?
Well,
yeah, but I mean,
one of the I don't remember which animated Spider-Man it was, but one of them it shows like it's a shirt and pants. It's not like a single like one-piece suit that he puts on.
Yeah, it's tucked in.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And another thing is that the actual cloth suit would have almost like the flap in the back with the zipper, the interior zipper that was like a seam,
like long john. Yeah.
Well, no, but instead of like being
flap.
instead of like being buttons, it would be like the concealed like seam zipper that's sewn inside.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that.
Now, thinking about this, why doesn't Deadpool have like the ass flap, like actual buttons on his suit?
Because Deadpool wears an adult diaper because he has Asperger's. Deadpool definitely wears an adult diaper.
Well, he listens to dubstep, so it pretty much does.
Fair enough.
So, Deadpool doesn't give a damn about anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, just imagine he just like opens the ass flap and just like takes a shit off of a bridge, like onto the bad guy's like windshield or something, after eating a bunch of chimichangas, and they crash their car and it blows up. And
now, just to turn the question back around on you, what's your comic inspiration? Like what did you draw from when you got into doing comics? Like like you said if there was no Jim Lee there would be no Damascus, but what comics specifically like do you go to, and are they all Jim Lee, or is that just kind of like the pivotal point?
No, that was just the beginning. That was like the starting point. God, my favorite guys. I love a lot of the Image guys. I loved. Like I said, I love Greg Capullo. I loved Mark Silvestri. Eric Larson's early stuff was okay, but it started getting really cartoony. But I like more like realistic artwork. I love Brian Hitch's artwork.
Right.
I love Steve Dillon. I loved his stuff wasn't really realistic, but I loved his facial expressions. He could tell so much with just one panel and just a smile or a smirk. And let me see. To go old school, I love old EC horror comics and the Warren comics from the 70s, especially. I love the artwork in those, the black and white stuff.
Yeah,
I love that.
Now, when you're talking about the horror
that's
comics, are you talking about the like the post '70s stuff after the comic code kind of stopped having so much of a hold, like when they first started reintroducing Swamp Thing and
those were okay, but the Warren comics were actually magazines, so they skirted the comics code
right?
because they got the idea. But that's what I like the most. The '70s horror comics, they were okay, like Swamp Thing. That after they relaxed some of the comics code in like '73, '74, and they started Marvel and DC started bringing about like Morbius and Son of Satan and Ghost Rider and that kind of thing. Those are okay.
It's so nice to be in the company of someone that knows Morbius actually existed before that animated show. Like a lot of people don't realize that Blade actually had comic books back in the was it the 70s and 80s?
Tomb of Dracula. That's where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was a jive talking disco freak, if I remember back. He had like an afro and everything. No, seriously.
Now, do you remember
when Blade first came out?
Oh no!
Oh shit! Do you remember the introduction of Lobo?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Can you back me up on how ridiculous that shit was? It looked like he was late for an audition with Kiss.
Oh yeah. It's true. That was before he had like the biker grunge thing going on. Yeah, he was wearing like a leotard, man. It's serious.
Purple leotard.
He was a hair metal. Yeah, he was in hair metal spandex. Definitely.
Had the big black hair.
Mm-hmm.
It was so awful. They tried to call that copying Wolverine. I think Marvel bested them when they copied Deadshot for Deadpool. Or not Deadshot, Deathstroke for Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. I still don't think it was it. You were talking about Marvel and DC earlier, and they had remember it was Lobo versus Wolverine, and Wolverine won because Wolverine's more popular. But there's no way Wolverine's gonna kick Lobo's ass. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Lobo's
I don't know, not in the short amount of panels that we got, but I think over time they would fight each other to a standstill, and Wolverine's regeneration would win out overall just because of the metal claws. He'd eventually disarm Lobo and get the best of him for the slightest amount of time. But it wouldn't happen in 4 panels.
No, yeah. One thing.
If he did win, he would grab a cigar from an ashtray that's already burning and smoke it.
He would smoke Lobo's cigar, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who would pass up on that?
Oh God.
Wolverine's cool and everything, but I have an issue with his regenerative abilities in that they're like each writer takes a wildly different approach to it. Like some of them are like, he gets scratched and everything, and he gets scratched and he's out of the fight. Other people have him get ripped in half, and it's just like I have
an issue with that too.
Yeah,
not for the comics. I mean, from little comics I've read, but also the way they make it in the movies or even in the cartoon show.
Oh well, in Civil War, he got blown up by Nuke on mutant enhancement drugs and survived because there was one cell that didn't die or some shit.
It was a drop of blood, actually.
I remember one of my favorite depictions of Wolverine was actually in Garth Ennis's Punisher, when there's like all these midgets that like are trying to take over.
Hey, watch out with the midgets now.
the vertically challenged.
Sorry. I'm
People
sorry.
McNuggets. Come on, guys.
Okay, whatever.
People McNuggets. Yeah.
No. You're good. The midgets just told me you're free. Yeah, you got the pass. You can say midget. You're good.
Got the M pass.
Yeah.
Okay, they were not put on. Okay, midgets. Little people were not put on ships and brought over here and forced to work in the carnivals. Okay.
That's ooh.
That's
Oh
good.
no,
That's good.
I disavow.
I'm sorry.
Later on, you should probably ask us about this magazine.
I need to derail this. Do you guys know that is it Kim Jong Il
Mm-hmm.
once claimed that he could cure dwarfism, and what he did was rounded up. I swear to God, this is true. He rounded up all the midgets in North Korea and convinced them that he was sending them on like a fancy vacation and put them on a boat and like shipped them to Ireland or something. And now there's no more midgets in North Korea. And he's like, see, I cured dwarfism. I swear to God, this is true.
Oh, that's fantastic. That should be a plot of a comic book all by itself. Like, follow the adventures of those poor dwarves on the way to Ireland. And maybe what happened to them after. Like, just show them getting drunk in Irish pubs and joining the IRA.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Irish love them because Irish people love midgets. And I'm not making that up. They do.
They just dress them up in green.
Exactly. They'd be picking them up and tossing them back and forth like a rugby ball.
Jesus fucking Christ. It was a great time having a YouTube channel, guys. I'm really
But anyway, back to the Wolverine. Actually, it's funny. Garth Ennis is Irish. Now that I think about it, and he was writing this with them. Yeah, got something there. Anyway,
where did midgets come up in? Okay, you said midgets, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were okay in the storyline. They were trying to take over all the crime. Punisher had killed off all the crime bosses, and they were trying to take over all the New York City mafia crime families. It was this like cabal of little people. So one day, the Punisher's tracking like some criminal, and he ends up running into Wolverine in a bar fight. So he and Wolverine go hunting in the sewers for all these little people. And in the beginning of the storyline, Punisher shoots off Wolverine's face. Okay, starts healing, and Garth Ennis just goes crazy, and he just he puts Wolverine through the ringer. And my favorite, like, he gets run over by a steamroller at the end. He gets his nuts shot off with an Uzi at one point. And Garth Ennis makes the joke that Wolverine has this fantastic grow a new ass superpower. That's like his regenerative ability. That's how he describes it. And I was all like, that is a very good description, because most writers don't. There's no commonality that they have. Marvel needs to take a line of like how far he can regenerate, because everybody just has their own interpretation of that.
And it seemed like they use it for the interpretation they use is what I don't know, is useful at the time. Like, oh my God, so Wolverine just got a massive hit, but it's okay. He's good now, guys. He's good. He's going back into the fight.
That's very, very true. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Like whatever's necessary in the story, he can survive whatever's necessary for that story.
Yeah, and I think that writers that don't use it as a crutch do better with him as a character. Or writers that come out and they have, like, one thing that I'll always like more than one set idea on his healing factor is consistency throughout the story. If in 1 minute he gets a hole blown, a hole the size of a frisbee blown in his torso, and he instantly heals from that, I don't expect to see the motherfucker with a black eye. But if he takes a hole to the chest and he doesn't like die or fall out completely or anything, but he's like, I'm gonna need a few minutes, back the fuck off, and later on he's got a scratch or a black eye, it doesn't stop me from suspending my disbelief enough to at least appreciate the consistency of this is where his power level is. It's like you said, when a writer really just uses it as a MacGuffin or a plot device, not even a MacGuffin, but a plot device, a plot armor, to just use Wolverine as the main character of a killing spree. That's why stories like Old Man Logan and Old Man Logan and the Death of Wolverine are so much better because they nerf that particular aspect of it. But it also makes for interesting stories with characters like Deadpool, like Marvel Zombies, when the group of zombies had captured Deadpool and they sever his limbs and eat them instead of turning him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then he's just he's like a talking head after that, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Headpool.
Yes. But there's also I think it's Ultimate X-Men where Wolverine teams up with Spider-Man and Daredevil. There's a part where he gets shot up by former Weapons X operatives and sneaks into Peter Parker's basement because he's so shot up he has to heal like overnight.
Right.
And I thought that was a good representation because he's just like torn to shreds, and then like Peter comes into his basement and like starts freaking the fuck out. And he's just like, just give me a blanket. I need to sleep this off.
Yeah. And that's the kind of appreciation that I've always had for it. Like I do think the character, like I'll be the first one to tell you. At one point in the 90s, you could be watching Scooby-Doo or the Hanna-Barbera show, and Wolverine or Batman was going to be on that show. And then they'd jump in the East River and, swim up to make their guest appearance in the next comic book. And then they'd cross over into an alternate universe to make a guest appearance in another universe.
Yeah.
Punisher and Ghost Rider. Remember when they had the new Fantastic Four when it was Punisher, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and the Hulk or something like that? And they're like,
it was like, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and the Hulk, I believe.
Yeah, it was a great Hulk, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, this is like the 40th comic he's been in this month. It's like, how does he get the time to do all this crap?
Right.
Very carefully.
And that actually it leads to an interesting point. I work at that local comic store on a small time basis. I just go in there and basically sort and bag and board their comics every Wednesday for about an hour or two. And I go in there and I handle all of that, and I reshuffle the shelves and stock everything and pull the back issues and make the returns and all that good stuff if there are returns. But one thing that always gets me is that I see every book that comes into the store every month. So there, at times, I think right now there are 7 or 8 ongoing Spider titles or series.
Yeah.
Like, that's $40, $50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's going to spend that?
Yeah, that's always it. And then they also like to add miniseries into that, and they do that with X-Men and Batman, Superman, all the big guns they do that with. And
well, there's an entire Bat Family series of ongoing stuff. Like you've got Batman, Batgirl, Batman Beyond, Detective Comics, Batwoman, Nightwing, Red Robin, or Red Hood.
Bat Kid. I don't know. Batman Jr.
Well, Robin or Nightwing would serve that, but yeah. Red Hood is also a former Robin. Got Batgirl. You've got Birds of Prey. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they cross over these storylines, and they expect you to buy these titles to finish all these stories, and it's just like, what? They don't even collect the storyline in the trade. They just collect the individual issues of the ongoing series.
That's true. Yeah, I never understood that either. It's rare that you get a storyline collected in its entirety, because it's like you said, they'll only collect the issues of, say, Batman, but they won't collect the other stories they won't collect all the other issues in the story together. So
right,
when
you have to go buy all 6 or 7 trades to get the full story, even if there's only one tie-in from that book.
Right, they're not stupid. They're not. I mean, they're not stupid in the way. Yeah, they know how to get you coming back.
Well, they've long since been of the model they want to sell you the same book 3 or 4 different times. They want to sell you they want to sell you the floppy. They want to sell you the soft cover trade. They want to sell you the omnibus, and they want to sell you the collector's edition.
Yeah, true.
So, and I mean, I'm guilty of it. I collected a lot of the individual issues for 52, but I also have the full thing in trade paperback.
True. I have some like that. Some series where I'd follow like that.
You know, I mean, I happen to end up with them. I've got a lot of the old back issues for the Legion of Superheroes, but I also have the DC Legion collections, the hardcover ones that they put out that are like $40 or $50 now.
Mm-hmm.
So
actually, you were. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say you were asking me about other influences and stuff that I liked. Another big one was James O'Barr's The Crow, the original black and white indie.
Oh
version.
yeah.
Have you ever read that?
Yes, I have.
That was a big one right there. Just because I remember up to that point, I'd never read anything that wasn't like full color. That was like the first like indie comic that I ever read, like black and white. You know, and it's very raw. It's very, in some parts, it looks like it's almost like a homemade comic, like just kind of put together. And but the storyline was just so so it was so different from what I'd been exposed to by that point. It was that was a big one. That was it just popped in my head. I had to kind of blurt that out.
Oh no, absolutely.
That was a big one.
That book doesn't get enough credit or love because the movie and the Brandon Lee tragedy just kind of overshadowed the comic book forever. They brought the Crow back for a Hack Slash series. I don't know if you've seen that recently, but there's a Crow Hack Slash crossover currently ongoing.
The thing about that was most people didn't even know it was a comic to begin with because it was such a small press thing. When they turned it into a movies, it was just like, hey, look at this great movie. Wait, it was a comic? I remember telling people about that, and they'd be like, whoa, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, it's actually better than the movie. I mean, the movie's good, but the comic's better. But, I mean, people would be like floored. They'd be like, are you serious? It was a comic book? It's like, yeah, it was a comic book movie.
Yeah. And now that seems like it's the stock in trade, too. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about is... comic books are being mined almost for their property. It does feel like that the age of or the era of publishers that we're in right now, the way they're treating their properties, all they're looking to do is license them off for movie properties or TV shows.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, I mean, you occasionally get something good. Like what I've seen of The Boys has been good. And
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's halfway.
That's a good comic.
Yeah, it's halfway decent to the comic book. It's not shot for shot, but it captured spirit, just like the old Spawn HBO series. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I remember that.
That was not faithful to the comic book, but it was in the same spirit. You would say
it was better than the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you have stuff like Preacher, which I thought was garbage compared to the comics.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen the TV show. One of my friends is like, I like ask him, and he's like, it's okay. He goes, but don't expect it to be the comic. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'll skip it.
Yeah, well, and I think that's something that a lot of these shows have a hard time balancing. Like the new Flash was pretty good for the first couple of seasons, and then got kind of weird and predictable. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it just suffered from that TV show syndrome where there was a formula. You could kind of read the formula as the show progressed. That makes it less fun. They can't all be Breaking Bad, but as far as comic book TV shows go, like, I don't know, maybe because they're doing a Lock and Key show. They're relaunching all of this new DC stuff. Marvel's launching more animated stuff on the Disney app or whatever. And it's just like, come on, guys! Like it's not. I mean, and it is. Kind of to circle back around to what we started talking about when we started this discussion. But it is like Todd McFarlane and the Image comic guys talked about. that the creator-owned properties that got sold, like Superman, Batman, or the industry-owned properties, I should say, they're not what they once were. All of their greatness is almost gone and is being drained for movies and TV shows and product lines, and they don't care about writing good stories because the name Batman carries so much weight.
That's true. I agree with that.
And it's depressing.
It's 80 fucking years old.
Well, yeah, but it's depressing. I mean, yeah, you had a couple of good movies. I'd say the Michael Keaton movies was pretty good. I'd say the Chris Nolan movies were pretty good.
Bad nipples.
Yeah, but
I mean, it was only a matter of time until we got the bad dick after that, right?
Yeah, that was a mistake.
The nipples or the dick?
Both. But I'd already seen the nipples. I needed to go the rest of my life without seeing the dick, and so far I have successfully completed that. But now I'm scared to buy any Batman comic because, surprise, Batwang.
I've seen that.
Right there.
I actually have to say I've seen it. I've seen that issue.
Is he Jewish or not?
Oh no!
It's kind of in shadow. It's kind of in shadow, but it's there. Yeah, it's definitely you can see it.
Who knows whether Bruce Wayne is circumcised or not? The Shadow knows.
I was
Sorry, by blue coal. Minus anthracite. Blue coal. Heating your home in the most efficient way.
You do have to wonder about Bruce Wayne, though, how he likes having like a prepubescent boy in spandex tights, around his.
I disavow.
Yeah. I got.
These are questions you gotta ask.
I'm not having this conversation.
What's Batman doing?
I'm out of beer. I don't have enough alcohol to have this conversation right now.
We only have 3.5 more minutes here. You're okay. But yeah. Well, first off, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. Like I said, this is great. I love talking about.
It's been very fun.
Yeah, I love talking about comic books in general. Just the old days, the good days. What could be worse? What could be better? I've got to have you back on now. But just one more time before we go. Let me pull this up, and we will shill this one more time before we. Oh, come on. Doing to me.
And Jesse, after the Lock and Key show is released, you want to come back on to talk about that and compare it to the books with us?
Oh, definitely. That'd be great.
Okay, cool.
Oh man, why is this?
Sorry, Church. I'm coming up with a show idea without your approval.
Yeah, you are. I don't know if I agree with this or not.
Do you have hopes for that show? I mean, like, what do you think?
Lock and Key, it really depends.
Morbid curiosity, that's what I have for it.
Are they going to go woke? I mean,
or go broke. Why is it not coming up? Oh, do I have to transform this? Make it fit the screen.
Well,
there we go.
The two of you shell out your channels.
Yeah, there we go. I've got it pulled up.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead and do that as well. I've got both your Twitter handles in the description down below. I've got a link to the IndieGoGo and Mr. Deadman's YouTube page. Are there any links you want to shill out, Damascus? Any YouTube? Any anywhere people can check out your work?
No, I just got the Twitter. That's all. That's where I live most of the time.
All right.
Always lurking about there and trying not to be a pain in the ass.
Well,
where's the fun in that?
Absolutely. But we do have it pulled back up on screen. Everybody check out Deadmans Tome, Deadocalpyse comic. The artwork looks fantastic. The premise looks like a lot of fun, and how can you go wrong with a $5 digital copy or a $10 regular copy and a digital copy? I mean, really?
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
So, and if it's not something you might be into, share it around. Maybe you know somebody who is. But absolutely check that out. And we look forward to having you guys back on the show later.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
I would
man.
enjoy that. I've enjoyed myself
Thanks
very
a lot
much.
for coming out, guys.
Definitely.
All right,
It's no
thank you.
problem. Anytime.
Yeah.
And